Hi everyone, it's your fairy card maker Lisa here, and in this video I'm showing you a rectangle based platform pop-up card. There are other shapes out there like the hexagon, and I've made a few, but the rectangle is the easiest one, so that's what we're going to start with. I've made a template for myself in 3 sizes. My favorite though is the 5 by 7 inch, so that's the one we're going to work with today. This one is my prototype that I did. And you can see on this one, I rounded the top. You do not need special dies to make the base of this card. I did use dies to decorate, but to create the base, you don't need dies. And you don't even need a shape here. As you can see on this one, I just rounded the corners. I did use a tool for that, but you can do it manually as well. So when I call this a rectangle base, it's because the bottom is a rectangle and there's 2 pillars that make up the mechanism. You fold the center down, and that's how your card collapses to go into an envelope for mailing. If you happen to make your back piece too tall, you can also fold it all the way up on itself, so long as the things that stick out of your layers don't go too far above the top. So this one you can see is a scene. This one is like in a room. This one is also a scene. I like these landscape ones. They're easier for me to decorate, but I might do another indoor scene with maybe a fireplace in the back and a little critter on a rug and a Christmas tree in the front. We'll see. These do stand up on their own. After they've been squished in an envelope, you might have to like fiddle with it back and forth this way to get it to sit flat, but they do stand up. You can just write on the back, but I like to put a pocket. This way you can slip a piece of paper in with your sentiment, as I've done here, but you could also put in a gift card. So I like that. And once the person is done with it, depending on if you've personalized the front or not, you can take that slip of paper out, the other person can put a new slip in and send the card on. So it is reusable. Okay, I have a couple other samples to show you at the end, but we're gonna get making now. These are the inks I'm going to be using today, so I'm just going to push those off to the side. For the 5 by 7 inch card, oh, I forgot to say, this one is the smallest. This is the A2, so 5.5 inches by 4 1/4. So this is what you need. This is your back piece. It's 5 inches wide, 5 3/4 inches tall. And these are your 2 base pieces, 5 inches wide by 5.5 inches. So this 1/2 inch becomes your little tab. And what we're going for is these 2 pillars here. So I've already prepared my pieces. So this is my back piece here. My base piece is here, my back piece here. I've cut some clouds with a cloud die to be my layers. I've cut a large sentiment out of gold foil cardstock. This is my pocket piece. I'm just going to go with plain white. And I've die cut these hot air balloons to be my decorations. I kept them in here because I'm going to ink them. These perforations, if you use enough pressure with your die cut machine, it pushes the paper up into these perforations and creates a nice die cut. I don't know if you can see the embossing there, but we'll see it when I start inking them. So I've prepared these pieces. Now, to get the rounded shape here, what you need to do is, if you don't have a die, you just draw a line straight down, and then you can take a saucer or any sort of rounded shape and make sure it hits at each side of those lines at the same spot. Trace around that, and then you can freehand cut it. I like to use long bladed scissors when I'm doing a long cut, and the trick is to use one hand to squeeze the scissors and the other hand to turn the paper. that's my backing piece. Let's make our base. With the 5.5-inch side at the top, I'm going to score at, so 1 1/4, 2 1/2, 3 3/4, and 5. Do that to both pieces. If you don't have a scoring board, you can always use a thick piece of fun foam. You can get it at a craft store, and a ruler. If you don't have a scoring tool, bone folder, scoring tool that comes with it, or this sort of stylus ball-ended tool, you can use a dried out ballpoint pen. You could try to use a non-dried out ballpoint pen inside of a sandwich bag so that you don't actually draw on your paper. But I have also successfully used pot scraper as a bone folder, and I think that might actually work for scoring as well. These are examples of pot scrapers. So you could use one of these edges. The sharper the edge, the lighter you're going to want to push so you don't tear your paper, but you could try that. So these are our pillars. Okay, now I'm going to do some scoring for my pocket. My pocket is 6 inches by 2.5 inches, and I'm going to score it at 1/2 inch on 3 sides, leaving one of the long sides open. I'm just going to miter these corners, which means angle cut them a little bit to the inside. And that forms the pocket. To decorate my card, I'm going to do some inking just to provide some depth between my layers. right, even that already looks pretty good to me as a card, even without the depth, because the inking provides a little bit of separation between those layers. But we're going to provide a lot of separation with our pillars. Before I continue, or before I build the card, I'm going to ink up these guys, the hot air balloons. Since these sides are all equal in width, it's easiest just to fold this shape in half when you are gluing it shut. Give the glue a little bit of time to grab, and then I like to flatten it always just to make sure that it will flatten no matter which way you fold this pillar. All right, so generally speaking, we're going to have this piece, we're going to have these two pieces, my second highest cloud hill, and then my shortest, like this. Something like this, you get the picture. Then I'm going to layer the sentiment, and I'm going to have the hot air balloons on each level. I don't know which one's going to go where, but something along these lines. The string part of the hot air balloon is really thin, so I'm going to make sure that I place those completely on the clouds. Probably something like that. So as you can see, this one needs to go in the middle, but I'm going to layer it from the back to the front. I'm going to find that seam, and I can see that's where the seam is. I want that not to be shown, so I kind of want that at the bottom of the card, so something like this, which means this is the side I'm going to put some adhesive. The tape is just there to give me some immediate grab because I'm impatient. It's probably better just to use glue on this part because it gives you the wiggle room. All right, so if this is how it's going to go, there's my seam. So that's the bottom. It's going this way. And I want to make sure I line it up perfectly. So I'm very lightly placing it down, having a look at it to see if that looks good to me. And now I'm going to flatten it and give it a press. All right, that's one. So now I want to take my second tallest clouds, and they are going to go here. If you want to have tape for that extra grab, but not immediate grab, you can actually put glue on the tape, and that will help it slide around a little bit before you really push it down. So I want to line this up along that fold, but not over it. And I think that I haven't pressed it down yet. I think that's going to look good. Yeah. So now I'm going to give it a good press. Doesn't really matter if you're crooked or if you are, well, you can be a little bit crooked, or if you are too high or too low. It's really up to you on how high you want that cloud to look. So I could have moved it up and it could be more even with that. I could have moved it down and then trimmed it off if I wanted to. So it's a little forgiving. All right, now we need our second pillar, and there's my glue tab there. I want that to be at the bottom. So like this, which means I want this side to have tape or adhesive. It's not the end of the world if you don't get the seam at the bottom. Just a nicety or finishing touch I like to do. Okay, Okay, seam is at the bottom. I'm gonna stack my pillars very gently, not pressing, just trying to get them lined up. Okay, I think that's lined up. I'm gonna give it a little bit of a squeeze along this. Oh, I'm gonna push it a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna give it a squeeze along the sides here as I flatten, holding it in place so I can flatten. And there we go. So this should be the 7-inch side. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, that will fit any 5x7 envelope. And again, if the backdrop was too tall, you can fold it completely up on itself and it will fit in an even shorter one, depending on whether your front piece or your inner pieces have anything poking out too high, but it's forgiving that way. All right, now we can stick on the front. Always be looking, always be testing and keeping track of which side you're putting the adhesive on. Perfect. Now we decorate. This is really thin. If I were smarter, I would have cut it out of adhesive-backed paper, but I wasn't, so we're going to use tiny little glue dots, or dots of glue. I'd like to make sure all the tips get glue and all the loop-de-loops. I can probably use my hands to place this. I was thinking I might need the tweezers, but this is a very, very fiddly font at the top, so I wanted to make sure this H loop is on a cloud. I don't want it to be hanging off where it could get bent. All right, that's what we've got so far. I want that glue to take hold. It looks like I didn't get enough here. Put some more dots. And as I said before, I'm a little impatient about waiting for the glue to dry, so I'm going to use a weight. Okay, I probably want yellow in the middle since it's separating the two same families or cooler colors, but at the same time, this yellow one is actually the smallest balloon, so maybe it should go in the background. So let's just test this, put it in its right shape. Yes, I think like this. I don't want my balloons to be sticking out the side because this is 5 inches, so in a 5x7 envelope, if it sticks out the side, it's not going to fit in your envelope. It's easier to see if it's sticking out the side by flattening your card out. You can flatten it any way you want. This is the way it will go in the envelope. You can flatten it all the way up. Actually, that doesn't give you much idea, but I flattened mine all the way down so I could see it's not going to stick out too much. I just need to see this head on so I can get an idea of where I want to put this one. And I think right about there. And the last one will be in the middle-ish, more to this side, but more central. I could glue this one down completely flat, or I could put it up on some foam tape, but I'm going to go flat for today. The other ones you could put foam tape, but then you're getting into a lot of thickness inside your card. So to avoid thickness, I'm not going to use any foam tape, but if I were, I would probably only put it on the back layer where it can be flat against that card and not have parts hanging off where it might bend over the foam tape, or just gives it more reason to bend backwards when you flatten it. So only on the back piece, but this would look nice if it were popped up a little bit on foam tape. And that's it. That's our card for today. Stands up nicely, has that shine, has color. I like it. Let me show you the other ones that I've made. So you saw this one, which is a forest scene, and that's colored like my dog. So this was a birthday card for my husband. He was born on Halloween, so he usually gets some kind of nighttime Halloweenish scene, but I put our doggy in there. You saw the crib one, which was my prototype. I have used acetate in here. I would have trimmed it a little bit better if I were using this other than a prototype, but you can use acetate. So for example, on these hot air balloons, if you wanted them to actually be floating off of these clouds, you could put acetate behind them to support those little balloon strings, and they could be looking like they're free floating, but I wanted to keep this one simple for today. And then I made a couple of Christmas ones using some mirror card for the sky, mirror card for the cityscape, and then some die cuts in the front. I started with this one just to make it black. It's a night scene, and the toy train for Christmas is here in the front with Santa in the back. This one is a purple background. So it has a purple city. But I found the front was a little too plain, so I like this one better that has the snow hills. So those are the cards I made using this rectangular base platform pop-up. I hope you enjoyed them. Thanks for watching.